All right, this is Obaid on behalf of B Electronics, and in this video, we'll be looking at oligopoly versus a monopoly. All right, so we'll be comparing both of them. So when it comes to a monopoly, okay, we know that a monopoly has to do with one firm. Okay, now this firm could be your utility company, which is, or maybe a natural monopoly. It could be your water company, your water supply company, okay, or it could be any other monopoly. Okay. So when it comes to monopoly, the monopoly is also a price setter, okay, versus a price taker. Okay, even though a perfect competition is a price taker, as we've seen in the last video, a monopoly on the other side is a price setter, okay, which means it sets its own price. And what I mean by price setter, okay, we know that in a perfect competition, right, where your demand meets supply, this is your price, okay? Also your average revenue or marginal revenue. Okay. In a monopoly, okay, the monopoly decides the price. Okay, it doesn't depend on the market to decide the price. Okay, so in a monopoly, what's going to end up happening is, okay, as the price goes down, the demand goes up and the quantity of production goes up. And that's the reason why in a monopoly, what's going to end up happening is the monopoly will purposely, deliberately reduce price to make sure it's able to match the consumer's demand. Okay. However, in a monopoly, your marginal revenue does not equal price. Okay. Your marginal revenue in a monopoly, okay, as we talked about in the last video, okay, assuming this is your marginal cost, okay, assuming that this is your demand, and assuming that this is your marginal revenue. So in a monopoly, okay, we know that the profit maximization point is where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Okay, but the price, okay, is where the demand meets the profit maximization quantity. Okay, so in short, the price is more than the marginal cost. Okay, and because this price is more than the marginal cost, the monopoly, okay, will make profit. Okay, however, on the other side, the consumer, okay, may lose out, okay, when it comes to marginal benefit to the society because for a monopoly, okay, monopoly may go ahead and produce less and sell it for a higher price. So high price and produce less. All right, so that is the difference between price setter and a price taker. Okay, a monopoly is a price setter, it sets its own price. Okay, whereas a perfect competitor is a price taker. It takes the price available in the market. Okay, so whatever the consumers are willing to pay. All right, it cannot make adjustments to the price. The reason why is because all the perfect competitors, all the perfect competitors, okay, they're evenly matched. Okay, for that reason, when it comes to a perfect competition, in a perfect competition, okay, each and every perfect competitor will need to keep the same price. Because if they bump the price up, okay, the other party makes profit from that. Okay, so when it comes to a monopoly, All right, what's going to end up happening is a monopoly will own much of the market share. So the market share over here, the market share percentage, this is high. All right, compared to a perfect competitor. All right. Now, apart from that, we also know, okay, that in a monopoly, okay, your price is greater than marginal cost. Okay, so the marginal benefit of producing each and every unit is more than the marginal cost. All right, so that is basically monopoly. All right, now on the other side, you also have an oligopoly. Now, an oligopoly could be more than one firm, such as two firms, which we call a duopoly, or it could be more than two firms altogether. Okay, so more, this is, okay, two firms, or more than two firms. Okay, now, just like a monopoly, and let me add this over here for a monopoly, you have high entry barriers. Just like a monopoly, an oligopoly has high entry barriers, right? Over here, the monopoly may be a natural monopoly, as a result of which the cost of production for that monopoly could be so less that no other competitor or no other company can compete with this monopoly or with this firm. Okay, in a duopoly or oligopoly, okay, you have the same scenario. Okay, the cost of production could be such that no other competitor would be able to compete with the two or three companies, okay, that own much of the market. All right. So in that case, what's going to end up happening is you're going to have high entry barriers. Okay. So you have high entry barriers. And this could be because of a number of factors. Number one, it could be because of supplier networking. You have supplier networking. Okay. It could be because of government regulations. So the government may regulate the price, where you may have a price ceiling. Okay. So in that case, if you do have a price ceiling, okay, the competitors in the business may not be able to raise the prices enough to make a profit from the entire business, as a result of which the firm, which is part of the duopoly or oligopoly, they will stay in the market, okay, because they don't have to bump their prices up. Okay, the reason why is because they've got investments in assets. Okay, let me write this over here. They've got investments in assets that reduce their cost of production. Okay. So if you have a company that sells soda, for example, okay, that company may have investments in equipment and machinery to the extent where their economy of scale. All right. Their cost of production is much less, or is cost of production is such where they're able to make more profit compared to other firms, other new firms which may enter the market, okay, to try and steal their profit. Okay, so in that case, we know that in a monopoly, Okay, because of their capital investment, investment in fixed assets such as equipment, land building, so on and so forth, machinery. Okay, their cost of production over a period of time is very low. All right. As a result of which, okay, when there is a government regulation, such as a price ceiling, where the government may regulate prices, okay, the monopoly will be able to survive in that market. Okay, but the other firms, okay, that may have a need to sell at a higher price may not be able to survive. All right. So that is basically high entry barriers. Now, just like a monopoly, oligopolies are price setters as well. They set their own prices. So as the consumer demand goes down, they might reduce the price. Okay, or they might reduce the price, okay, to increase demand altogether. All right. Now, apart from that, we also know that oligopolies, just like monopolies, own much of the market share. However, in this case, you have more than one company that owns the market share. Okay, so you have more than one company, more than one company that owns the entire market share. That doesn't mean that they own 100% of the market share. Okay, it may be so that they may have left 20% for perfect competitors. Okay, however, those perfect competitors may be competing for the last 20%. Okay, not for the 80% that the oligopolies own. All right, because they're no match for the oligopolies. All right, so in that case, a monopoly and an oligopoly will be a price setter. Okay, and they also own much of the market share. So this is the same over here. Okay, and much like this graph over here, an oligopoly has a price which is more than the marginal cost, which means their marginal benefit of producing a product is higher than the cost, the marginal cost of producing that product, which is at a loss to consumers. Okay, so this is at a loss to consumers. Okay, now the difference between a monopoly and oligopoly, the major difference is something that I mentioned earlier. A monopoly is one firm, where oligopolies will be more than one firm. Okay, so you may have two firms or more than two firms. Okay, now these two firms may produce similar products, okay, similar in taste, similar in color, okay, aesthetics, looks, so on and so forth. Okay, to the extent where one product may act as a substitute for the other. Okay, so if one soda company has or experiences reduced demand, it may mean that the demand for the other soda company may go up. Okay, so even though oligopolies may not compete with other perfect competitors or new startups, okay, they may compete against each other. All right, so that is the difference between a monopoly and an oligopoly. When there is a monopoly, in most cases, this is a natural monopoly. As I mentioned earlier, this could be a utility company where, okay, the cost of setting up transmission towers, okay, the cost of producing and distributing electricity may be very less compared to the long-term marginal benefit, long-term profit from distributing and selling electricity. Okay, you only have to lay those towers once, right? After that, you could be producing and distributing electricity for the entire life of an individual. All right, considering you don't have any natural disasters which may knock your tower down. All right, so that would be an example of a monopoly, especially a natural monopoly. Okay, if it's your water supply company, they only have to put the pipes under your soil once. Okay, after that, they can supply water at a comparatively low price, right? So that is basically monopoly and oligopoly broken down for you. On behalf of V Electronics, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.